Um, but first, yeah, let me briefly introduce myself because we haven't met too much before. Yeah, so it's me and my company, Hangveto. We are curating festivals, we are coordinating European Union projects in music development. We work for the UNESCO as a consultant on the Cities of Music network. We work for European Capital of Culture, so we've got many city clients in both. We produce documentaries about music, also soundtracks for movies, radio programs, that kind of. So it's like a very broad activity, but everything that we do is connected to world and traditional music and some jazz, some classical music. These are my colleagues, so you can have a guess about the size of the company. And yeah, we are 20 years old, 35 people. Yeah, so this is basically what we do, and we are based in Hungary, if I haven't mentioned that, but our activities are mainly on the European and the international level. Okay, so let's try and define, as I see it, traditional music. So, for me, pop music, it's like a fast food chain. It's functional. You're hungry, you go there, you check out quickly, you eat it quickly, and you don't remember that after that. So it's not a memorable meal. Classical music, for example, for another example, it's like, you know, a very old-fashioned, kind of rigid restaurant where you can, you know, everybody feels the need to dress up nicely. The waiters are overly polite, and it's not the place where, you know, you get drunk with your friends or you party or whatever. You have to behave in that kind of a restaurant, an elegant restaurant. So that's how classical music looks. And so traditional music, on the contrary, or world music, on the contrary, for me, it's like those places where you feel natural. It's not a posh restaurant usually. It's also not a fast food chain. It's somewhere where you feel good. These are the memorable meals. So it's not making as much money as fast food chains. It's not so high prestige as an elegant restaurant, as classical music, but these will be the dinners that you remember. Maybe just a few per year, but these are the ones that you want to revisit. But these places are usually not easy to find. They are not, you know, I'm sure you all had this kind of experience where when you found a tiny little place, like an off-the-beaten-track place, and they are usually not on the maps. That doesn't have good ratings on social media, whatever, because they don't care about that. So they are hard to find, but this element, it adds to their charm. So that's what people love about them. So, traditional music is, as the name suggests, it goes back to much earlier than any other genre. Also, I would add that basically 90% of music genres in the world today are traditional music genres, because traditional music is a much more fragmented area. Think of all the kind of global music categories, like all the pop music genres, or jazz, or heavy metal, or all the electronic music genres. So if I'd say a hip-hop band from Bolivia and a hip-hop band from Indonesia sounds quite similar. A black metal band from China and the black metal band from Norway also sounds kind of similar, because these are global aesthetics. So, but also a jazz quintet, it's a sound that is present everywhere in the world. So these are global aesthetics, these are global musical languages. And traditional music is the only one where it's not the similarity that people are looking for, but the difference that the people are looking for. So it's a very fragmented area of music, which means that a tiny little country like, for example, Estonia, has as many folk music genres as global pop music genres altogether, probably. So it's and some genres are, you know, only played by a handful of people, but that's the beauty of it. And so it's because traditional music accumulated through centuries and millennia during the history, and tiny little pieces remained of everything that has ever played. So it's a kind of a music archaeology in a way. And it kept kind of the ancient functions of music, because music has become commercial only in the 20th century. Before that, it was only functional. It had social functions. The main function was to play music together, to keep community together. So social cohesion was the main cause of music. And that's why traditional music is the most accessible. It's very easy to join in, because that was the aim, that the people can sing together, or somebody sings and the choir repeats. These are all because traditional music is a participatory area of music. Also, music was functional in another way. Think of all the traditional music functions like wedding songs, songs of grief, farewell songs, songs that helped to work together, songs that expressed, and of course contemporary pop music still does that, songs that express love, happiness, sorrow, longing. These were the functions of music. So to express and share emotions inside a small community of people. But this function, it's still there. We still need to share our emotions. We still need to keep communities together. And music can still do that. And all kinds of music tries to do that. But what has changed dramatically in the 20th century is that for centuries before, the environment of our life hasn't really changed much. It was the 20th century when the change became very, very fast with the industrialization, modernization, urbanization, which was very important, because with urbanization, these traditional smaller communities of people were melted, and in bigger cities, communities work in a different way. Most of the traditional music genres served rural communities. And why we have so many traditional music genres is the reason of that is that every community developed their own genres. Every rural area developed their own genres. So this environment, this scene that produced traditional music for centuries has very quickly disappeared almost everywhere in the world. I mean, these rural areas where traditional music is still, sounds like centuries ago, some exist in isolated places, some islands, some parts of Africa. As an ethnomusicologist, I also do field trips and field recordings. So sometimes I find places like last winter I was in an archipelago in West Africa. That it's still, you can see how it was centuries before everywhere over the world, but these are really tiny little spots in our world now. But that our environment changed, it doesn't mean that our needs have changed. Our emotional needs, our community needs, human needs have changed. So somehow we have to save this function of music and help it through the urbanization and help it build a bridge and try to find a place of this kind of traditional music in a totally changed, urbanized world. So basically this was behind the concept actually of world music, which was a term that was coined in the late 80s by some music aficionados, record labels, basically to help label the kind of music that they weren't able to label before. Because imagine, I mean, most of you weren't born yet when there were still record shops around, but at that time this happened in London, where they came up with this name, world music. So in London there were record shops, and in the record shop, I mean everywhere there were record shops, but in these London record shops there were these shelves with genre names on that. Pop music, rock music, classical music, jazz. Sometimes there was a Latin shelf, sometimes there was a reggae shelf, but a lot of records that they've got, from Africa, from Eastern Europe, from Asia, whatever, they couldn't put it anywhere. There wasn't, so they couldn't really sell this kind of stuff because there was no shelf to put it on. There was no name under they could file it. So the initial problem that they wanted to solve is that, okay, let's give a name to this kind of everything else music. And that everything else was what became world music. And so world music was the first attempt to market, or for the marketing of traditional music products. And it was very successful, so now it's a genre that kind of represents 5–6% of global music consumption, so very well done, all the people who came up with this idea. But still, this is a genre where, and it's not a genre, I said it's a category or a marketing label that includes like thousands of genres. I mean, just from China, I could name like 100 different genres of different areas of the country. But this is a category that is probably the less commercial still, and is the less exploited in the digital world. But that comes with the nature of it. Because what people who love world and traditional music love is that it's the most kind of human kind of music making. It's very manual, so you wouldn't find, auto-tune or any like computerized production. Usually world music festivals are small festivals, which means that You could, I mean, let's imagine I'm the artist, this is the stage, and yeah, you could sit here. I mean, it's in a stadium concert, what do you see? What you see is like basically what you would see on a bad YouTube video from very far, like a tiny little man doing something. Also, you could see something better on the screen, but if you want to see it on the screen, you could stay home and watch a YouTube video. In traditional and world music concerts, the musicians are very close, very accessible. That's a part. I mean, that's how the music works, and it's so you can feel the vibe. That's for me. That's the real experiment when you can watch how music is made, how music is created. So this, I think, this human nature of traditional world music will get higher and higher value in the world of AI and autotune. So it's, I'm totally sure that commercial genres and digitally produced, digitally generated music will always be much bigger business. But world music is a kind of a premium product in this sense. Like, think of anything. Like, I had this example from restaurants, but also think of, you know, fashion, fast fashion and haute couture, or always handmade stuff is always a bit more valuable, but also much more rare that you can you get to use it. I'm doing something wrong. Okay. So why is world and traditional music not so well marketed? I think one of the reasons is because world music is except our own world music, which nobody considers world music. Our own music is usually folk music. Everybody else's folk music is world music. So it's kind of an external viewpoint. But now I'm not making a difference between the two. Traditional music is either yours or anybody else's. It's always a bit, these days, it's always a bit exotic, a bit strange. We lost the connection both to those musical languages and both to that knowledge that produced that music. And that means that to market this kind of music, we need to be able to retell these stories. So we need to create a context. We need to create, if you wish, a marketing context for this music. But that means that those actually very compelling, very engaging stories that are behind this kind of music, these needs to be told, retold, if you wish. And that's a very good material. You can create very engaging storytelling, you know, from those 1,000-year-old instruments, 1,000-year-old songs, or not just songs, but also contemporary artists who recreate music in certain traditional genres. They've got their own personal stories, why they do that, how they do that. So that's one thing. This is what we do actually for our festivals or as a label. You always need to kind of educate the people, but this is not a good word, educate. It's you need to engage them through these stories. So it's like you need storytelling tools, like, you know, when you are producing a documentary about something strange. Like, I think of a travel documentary, because world music is many times is compared to like a music travel, when you travel to distant places, traveling without moving, as they say. But also, a lot of traditional music, most of the traditional music, is still not available digitally online. And even if it's available, it's technically available, but nobody would find it because they don't know what to look for, what to seek for. So that's why we also need this kind of storytelling infused niche marketing stuff like thematic playlists or even thematic providers, thematic music libraries, which you can group like in several ways. So I've been doing a radio show about traditional music for 15 years now, and that's 5 days a week, which means like, I don't know, almost 2,000 programs. So you can group traditional music in many ways: geographic logic, instrumental logic, functional logic, like, you know, wedding songs from around the world or songs about birds from around the world. The interesting stuff is that there is no culture in the world who hasn't sung about this kind of stuff. The sun, the birds, love, grief, loss, longing, the stars, the sea, or rivers, whoever's got what. So this is also, and these are things that we can all still relate to. We still need relation to the nature, if you wish, or to our inner self. These songs can all provide that. Also, as I said, we somehow distanced ourselves or lost connection from these traditional cultures because the 20th century really shaked everything up, and this very, very quick urbanization, I'm sure you know a lot about that in China as well, because here it was also very quick, this switch from dominantly rural culture to urban culture. So we had no chance, basically, keeping that connection with these cultures, with the nature, with how to manage small communities. But historically speaking, I mean, if you speak in terms of music history, it was just 1 minute what happened in the 20th century. The centuries before that were we still have that in our common memory. So we need to reconnect to this culture, not in a way that, you know, I'm not talking against modernization at all, but we need to emotionally and spiritually reconnect to this culture to understand this kind of music. And to do that, I think we need to make it a part of contemporary culture. So we need to use contemporary marketing tools. We need to be able to include traditional music, for example, in fashionable, trendy, contemporary TV drama soundtracks or video game soundtracks, because that's where we or where people meet the music. But many times, for example, in films, music supervisors are afraid to use traditional music because they are not familiar with it. They don't want to make a mistake, and you know, I usually say that you can only hear traditional music in films if there is a scene in the film where you want to tell with music that now we are in some distant place. I don't know, in the polar north, or we are in Africa, so let's hear some African music. But African music is 1,000 different types of music, and maybe the film is set in Nigeria, but if we hear something from Mozambique, then it's a huge mistake. So that's why music supervisors are usually afraid of this kind of usage of traditional music. But basically, this music is a very powerful tool to tell stories, to add color to stories, and also to engage. I mean, it's good music usually. I mean, not all, you won't like all kinds of traditional music, of course. Nobody likes every kind of traditional music because it's a lot. There are huge differences aesthetically speaking. Somebody likes this one or that one, that's totally all right. But traditional music is very enjoyable if you give it a chance. And it's like, it's like, think of it, I use this example of restaurants, think of it as, an exotic food. I mean, you might be a bit afraid of that, but you want to try it. I mean, try it once and you'll see if you like it, and it might become your favorite food. So this is basically what I had to say, and we will discuss the topic further, but I'm also ready to take questions. Or is it after the panel? After the panel, okay. Thank you.